Hello, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on your time zone you're in. Welcome. Welcome. We are so glad that you can join us at this Burma Spring Benefit Online Film Festival one more time. My name is Kenneth Wong. I'm a Burmese American writer, author, blogger, and a language instructor. I'm also going to be the moderator of this live discussion. This is a special speakers forum because this is the last in the series. So this is with a tinge of sadness that I'm moderating this one here. Today, I'm honored to be facilitating a conversation with the filmmakers of Padauk, Myanmar Spring, the latest movie to be debuting at the festival. And in the interest of full disclosure, I think I should also mention that I am part of the film too, because you're going to find out anyway. If you watch the film, the first thing you hear and the last thing you hear is my voice, this voice, because I've been called upon to provide lend my voice to read the beginning and the ending Burmese poem for the movie. So let's meet our panelists first of all. Jeannie, welcome. Would you tell us a little bit about who you are, your role in the film, and your self-introduction, please? 2 minutes.
Thank you, Kenneth. Mingalaba alon. Good evening, good morning, everybody. It's such an incredible honor and delight to be with all of you and to be surrounded by this team, including Saya Kenneth, who is part of our Karana film team. We have a small nonprofit team that we formed and officially branded as Kirana, which is a Pali word that means to shed light. That's how we chose the word, because we aim to use the medium of light, creating images to tell stories, but also to shed light upon issues with the hopes that by doing so, we can change people's ideas and change people's hearts about some of the human rights issues confronting our world. And I'm very pleased that Gregg Butensky, Rares is a member of our team. Nant is the newest member of our team. Kenneth has always been a member of our team in terms of helping us with the writing and the poetry. But I'd also like to mention our very beloved and important colleagues, because everything we do in Burma is produced with Burmese. And I'd like to mention our incredible cinematographer, Saijak Kang. And I would also like to mention our other colleagues who will not be named, but will hopefully see this. But for their security, we are not naming them, but we have a great team, including a field producer, a translator team, a second cameraman, and they are the ones who really made this possible. Thank you, Saya Kenneth.
Very good. Thank you very much. Next, let me call upon Gregg to introduce himself. Gregg, welcome. Would you also explain your role in the film and in Kirana production, and also your greetings to the audience, please?
Thank you, Kenneth. I've been doing the behind the scenes tech along with Max in these speaker forums, so it's against all my instincts to have my camera turned on, but it's very good to be with you all. Just by way of background, my involvement with Burma goes back some 34 years, which is when I first visited and fell in love with the country. I was young and naive at that time. It was a real eye-opener. And the experience turned out to be life-defining for me. I met Jeannie about 10 years ago when she was visiting San Francisco from Bangkok. I was immediately super impressed with her experience and talents, and over time managed to figure out how I could be of some help to her in her work as a filmmaker. In 2018, just 3 years ago, we traveled together to the Rohingya camps in Bangladesh and to Burma to work on the film Mother, Daughter, Sister. And we rendezvoused with Raj at the airport in Bangkok on the way to Bangladesh. That was the first time we met in person. And then in 2018, after that trip, Jeannie and I formed Piranha Productions, that she mentioned, to further this work. And in 2019, we had our first paid work under Karana as a contract for the NGO Community Partners International that brought us back to Burma. And then soon thereafter, COVID hit and we went into lockdown. Fortunately for me, Jeannie was stuck in San Francisco and not in Thailand. And so we embarked on a local San Francisco film project But that immediately went on hold as soon as the coup happened in Burma in February. And we knew right away we needed to switch gears and make a film on the current situation. So that brings us to today.
Very good. We'll hear more about what you have to go through to make this film. For now, I'd like to call on Rares. Rares, welcome. Would you also explain your role in the film and say a few words, greet the audience in your own words, please?
Minglaba, thank you everyone for joining us. It was such an honor to be part of this film. By way of background, I'm a lawyer, a California licensed lawyer, but I balance my legal work with my human rights activism and my passion for photography and making films. I will admit that I was a very big Daw Aung San Suu Kyi fan pretty much since the time that she won the Nobel Peace Prize. And I was not as involved as Jeannie and Gregg were in the struggle for democracy in Burma, but I always followed news about her. And what really marked me was her saying, you know, don't support the military, don't visit a country until democracy is established. And so I actually held off until her party was in power and the US sanctions were lifted at the end of 2016. And then I finally made my move. And as Gregg mentioned, I fell in love with the country the moment I touched down. It was love at first sight. And, you know, more so than the country, I fell in love with everybody that I met, you know, Burmese, Chin, Kachin. I just was very lucky to meet a few different ethnicities from the get-go. But what disturbed me at first was this is a period when the first clearance operation against the Rohingya happened under this military chief. And it was very disturbing to me to see a lot of people that I had looked up to, including Daw Suu, as human rights icons, you know, making comments and looking the other way in something that to me seemed like, no, we need to tackle this. What is going on here? So I then took another trip to Burma, and this time I went straight to Rakhine State, and I went to meet both the Rakhine and the Rohingya communities. And that's when I realized there's so much about this country that I just don't know about. And so I continued educating myself, and then the atrocities happened, of course, in August of 2017. And during that time, I learned of a very fierce filmmaker who had done a film about the Rohingya previously, and whose film was banned from the Yangon Human Rights Film Festival. And I was very curious, why would her film be banned? And so I reached out to Jeannie Hallacy. And then we met in LA that fall, and we started talking about, you know, how can we do something to bring the world's attention to this crisis that's happening in a here and now. And then Jeannie talked to Gregg, and that's how our first trip to Bangladesh materialized in January of 2018. We made a beautiful film, Mother, Daughter, Sister, showing the struggles of Rohingya and Kachin women. I ended up moving to Yangon full-time at the end of 2018. And that is where I met my beautiful wife, Nant. And I think now she can introduce herself too.
Very good. So this is a very good time for me to actually call on Nant, which is who is our fourth panelist, and also in a way the narrator, the voice of conscience for this film throughout. So Nant, welcome. Would you also say a few words about who you are and your background, and what is your role in this film? Unmute yourself, Nant.
My name is Nat Injin Joso. I am a film producer and one of the narrators of this film. Also, I was one of the protesters in the crowd in Yangon for this revolution. I was born and raised in Yangon, even though I'm quarter Kenyan ethnic. And I just moved to America for America 3 months ago and stayed fighting this military coup as much as I can. Also, my whole family against military coup, and we are participating in this revolution. Thank you.
Very, very good. Thank you very much. So I have audience, if you have questions and comments, feel free to start typing them in and putting them in the chat boxes so that we can see them and we can respond to them. Also, to my panelists, I'd like to keep it conversational. So if you keep your responses to maybe about 3 to 4 minutes in general, I think that we can keep the rhythm going, okay? I'm gonna start with Nant. Nant, in the very early part of the film, we saw you says this protest changed me a lot. I feel like an adult now. So I'd like to ask you to explain this if you could. What kind of person were you before the protest and the coup, and what kind of person do you feel you have become now?
Before military coup, I was just a young lady who was like studying and working at the same time, and like seeking the opportunity for my future, and like, you know, and also I was like planning to get married and moved to America and then studied again. Like I said in my introduction, I was just born and raised in Yangon, right? Even though I'm quarter like Kenyan ethnic, but I didn't know like so much about them, and I was just a city girl. I didn't pay attention about them. I rarely like read or watched news about them, and then I really didn't care what is really happening in ethnic areas, and then also as well as Rohingya friends. But now this protest taught me like to sympathize, like not only people from mainland, but also people who live in Myanmar. And like before this military coup, I believed like the news from government TV channel. Like I didn't really care or didn't like believe like news from Voice of Asia or DVB or RFA. I didn't really pay attention as well. And after the coup, this protest like changed my entire like my mind to consider each other, I mean our ethnic people, as sister and brother, and also friends, to make peace. Also the real meaning of federal democracy, justice, peace, and human rights. And now I can see, like during this protest, now I can see and I can feel from my heart like how this military has been torturing and bullying to all my friends from ethnic areas and Rohingya like people. And that's why like I decided not to stay silent for our rights. And I will speak out for justice. From now on, I will be fighting for human rights as much as I can. And I'm gonna think and I'm gonna act like a adult. And then those kind of experience, precious experience, give me strength and knowledge, and then it opens my eyes.
We already have questions about the 3 main activists that we met. So let's see if we can put the image on screen, and then let's talk about these 3 people. Nan, I'll still like to ask you a follow-up question, if I may. Could you maybe tell us a little bit about the personality of each of these 3 persons that you met, and how did meeting them change your life? How did they influence the way you think about history or being Burmese?
Each of them, they teach me and they share me lots of knowledges and observation, like a sister, like a family. Like they share information and they share everything the experience like with me without hesitation. And Zhao has like open-minded, and then his spirit is kind of like energetic, and then he will not be silent like me. He would speak out if he knows something, or if he thinks he must involve or something like that. He is super energetic person. Also, Mansangka is really like an older sister. He had lots of experience than us, and then he went to the jail and prison for like months, and because he wrote the poem, and then he had really how I say, amazing experience in political things, also Myanmar history. He knows better than ethnic areas history and like conflicts. And then he teach me like with the proof, and then he shared me with the with his own heart. And Yin Yang is mostly like a sister to me, and she always how can I say, care about human rights. No matter what you are, no matter who you are, you need to learn. She always said, you should know what human right is, and you need to care each other, like a sister and brothers, and also friends, to make the peace. And then she's really such a nice and calm and then super amazing person to me.
Very good. For clarification, Zaw is the teacher who turned into an activist, and he's the one with the red bandana. And Sangka is the middle person with the blue helmet, and the person in the red shirt with the megaphone is Yin Yang. So these are all part of the movie. I'm gonna turn to Rares. Rares, you witnessed the early phase of the protests, which were very much like a celebration when everyone was happy and costumes and almost like a Mardi Gras situation. And then you also witnessed the protest turn really dark when the army started shooting at people with snipers and things like that. Did you ever feel like your life itself was in danger when you were filming these scenes?
Well, like you said, in the early stages of the protest, it truly was like a festival. And also coming on the heel of almost 1 year of COVID lockdown, there was a lot of anger on the streets, but there was also an overwhelming feeling of joy. It seemed after the first couple days, after the first day we didn't know what would happen. I remember Nant and I walked outside. It was a day when they had cut off all communication, so we couldn't even ask our friends what was going on. And then there was some tense moments when the soldiers were going through the crowd and you know, forming a wall, but nothing happened. People went home, and after that it became this big celebration. So when the crackdown started, I was on the street filming. I was with Mount Sangka's group, the General Strike Committee of Nationalities, and we had followed at least 3 of their marches through the city. So the day started as just another march, and then the police started charging at us, and charging again, and charging again. And, you know, we were not prepared for it. We had heard of violence in other cities, of course, but we hadn't experienced it ourselves. There was a lot of young protesters with us, of first-time protesters with us. People were not wearing any kind of protective gear. And, you know, I remember hiding in a monastery that later on I was told it's a monastery full of informants, and I should have never been there. You know, I was filming countless protesters, including media, getting arrested. But, you know, I wouldn't say that at any point in time I fear for my life, mostly because when the police start shooting, when the police start charging, there's just this intense pure feeling of fear and just survival. You're not processing what's happening. I mean, one moment you're trying to do an interview with someone, and then two people start running, and then it's a stampede, and you don't even understand why. Sometimes you don't understand why. Other times, you know, you're filming a wall of police, they're getting ready to shoot, and then they start shooting, and again you start running. So we didn't have time to think in those terms. And you know, of course I wasn't alone. There was a lot of local media that was with me, and some of them have been arrested, some of them have been, you know, beaten, and some of them you know, have disappeared. So I always sort of had in mind that, you know, no matter how much danger I'm in, but the locals who don't have a foreign passport, who don't have such an easy way as myself to get out of the country and get out of the situation, they're really doing way more than I'm doing. So I felt that I was really doing the bare minimum, just documenting what was happening. And after the crackdown started, after the first day, of course, we understood that protests would be met with violence. But again, you know, as long as my friends were out on the streets, as long as Nant wanted to keep going back on the streets, then it was a no-brainer to go back.
Clarify what you just said about police charging at you and being shot at. I think the violence was gradual, right? In the beginning, there were baton charges, and then there were tear gas, and then sound bombs, and then eventually it moved to live ammunition shot. Were you involved in a situation where the police was actually shooting at you with live ammunition?
So on Military Alliance Day, February 28th, is the first day the police shot protesters in the streets. There's some earlier reports of police shooting people at night, people trying to protect the neighborhoods. But in terms of the protesters, that was the day. So this is happening at Ledan, and we're in Sanchang, which is the next neighborhood over from Ledan. And again, we didn't know what the police was shooting with.
Right.
So it was gradual, but it was very fast. Right. The day before, they had started with police charges with police sticks, right? But then the protesters are regrouping and forming, you know, ad hoc barricades. And then the police started shooting with rubber bullets and gas bombs. And again, the only way we could tell what they're shooting with was, luckily, nobody remained on the ground after the shots.
Right, correct. Yeah.
But one thing I would like to point out is, during almost every single police charge I've witnessed, there was no violence by the protesters against the police. There was nothing being thrown at the police. There was no violent movements, no aggression from the protesters towards the police.
In other words, these are all unprovoked.
Unprovoked. And the police had water cannons.
Correct.
They were never used. So they immediately went to, you know, physical violence, beating people up, arresting people, and then beating them. There was no attempt by the police to de-escalate or to, you know, gradually increase the level of violence that they use.
Thank you very much for getting those critical footage for the film. I'm going to call on director Jeannie. Jeannie, in the more recent news footages and in news outfits postings, I noticed that the outfits the agencies are starting to blur the people's faces because they realize that now the police are becoming much more aggressive in tracking people down. In this movie, we still see the main characters clearly identifiable. Can you explain the decision-making process?
Indeed, I think the situation has become very grave. We awoke to news this morning of a close friend of ours who actually had experienced violence in their own home with an incendiary device that was thrown into their house this morning. So I think that the chaos and the disparate violence that is sweeping the country has made it, in fact, a much more dangerous situation because it is so scattered and unpredictable. We were quite clear in ensuring through Nant and through Rares with the three protagonists that they were willing and wanted to have their stories shared with their identities. And we double and triple and quadruple checked that with them, obviously because of the concern for their security. And I think what we have found in the course of doing this work over many years is that people's truths are something that they can use as a way to transform others when they have nothing else, when they don't have the power of an armed resistance behind them, but they have their story. The sharing of that story is, in fact, the one thing that they have to stand with. And standing with the truth is something that these three main protagonists decided, along with Nant, and we are very appreciative of that. Others in the film you have noticed perhaps were silhouetted purposefully, not identified because they are more vulnerable. We also didn't want to disclose locations. And we also took care whilst using the social media posts to ensure that names were obfuscated so that nobody could be identified. But the three protagonists who shared their lives with us wanted this story told.
You might maybe address a follow-up question from one of the audience as well. Peter was wondering if you have seen the direct impact of your film through other activists and strangers. Of course, the transformation of Nant is one of the clear impact that is captured on screen. What are the other impacts that you have seen, by the way? Jeannie.
The film has only been out for 2 days.
True.
So we've been out in the world for 48 hours. We're very happy to say that it has had a lot of views on the Burma Spring Benefit Film Festival, which has been wonderful. And we have heard from colleagues and friends, both inside Burma, Myanmar, as well as those who have been connected to it for some time. And I had a dear friend from Yangon this morning say, I watched it and my tears fell once again, but my heart was full because you told the truth. So, you know, that was a wonderful tribute because that's ultimately what we can offer. So we're hoping that it goes out further in the world. We are in the process now of fundraising to make multilingual versions of the film. Our first priority will be to make a Myanmar Burmese language version of the film, because I would very much like it to be seen widely across Myanmar, not only by ordinary citizens, but by police and members of the armed forces.
Very good. Gregg, I'd like to call upon you. You were the producer not only for this film, but as you have already said in the introduction, also the producer for Mother, Daughter, or Sisters. And it seems to me, even though both are about human rights violation, they are very distinctly different in environment, in climate, and style. So what can you tell us about the difference in experiences of producing these two films?
Well, yeah, they were dramatically different experiences to produce. Some things are the same. I think with all our projects, story development, script writing, managing the budget, which is a big part of my job. And actually to pick up on what Jeannie was saying, another thing that is in common, and this is often the case, is that we have this issue of covering people who are at some risk. And by appearing in our films, there are some ramifications, potential ramifications of that. And consistently, those people are steadfast that they want their story told and they want to appear in the film. So that's a commonality. The differences were stark. I mean, from mother, daughter, sister, we traveled together to Bangladesh, to Burma. I went on one of 2 trips. Jeannie returned again. Rares was there with us. Visiting the camps was an extraordinary experience. There's nearly 1 million people in the Rohingya camps, and they were, many of them traumatized by recent events when we were there. It was incredible for me to experience firsthand how Jeannie navigates the complexities of working in such environments. That was my first experience alongside her with that. And then for Padauk, this new film, it couldn't have been more different. It was impossible for us to travel, Jeannie and I. We were very fortunate to have the team on the ground in Rangoon that included Rares and Nant. And it was initially a great challenge. Jeannie was effectively having to direct, not just from afar, but across time zones, across internet outages. The Burmese authorities were shutting down the internet on a regular basis. However, Rares proved to be an incredibly capable partner on the ground and quickly became Jeannie's eyes and ears. And it was an incredible partnership that unfolded. And there's a lot in the fact that Jeannie and Rares are listed as co-directors. I mean, that was an incredible partnership to get this done, but it also made it a very unique film producing experience.
Rares, I have other questions for you, but I think I'd let you address one of the questions that come up from the audience. We notice a lot of police vehicles and uniforms that but we also heard that they could be military personnel actually dressed up as police. What does your experience tell you about that rumor? Does it confirm it?
Absolutely. And Kenneth, please stop me if I go over time. This is a topic that's very, close to me because I experienced it. The police and military are working hand in hand. We saw this on multiple occasions. One of our neighbors, this is probably one of the most traumatic experiences that Nant and I had. One of our neighbors was arrested at night, and they tortured him to death, released his body in the morning. We were taking photos of the situation on the street at night while this was ongoing, and the majority of the troops were military troops, but they were being helped by police in uniform. So they were clearly working hand in hand. At other times, there was one day when I got stuck into an apartment. The police sort of, established a perimeter and we couldn't leave. So we had a lot of time to look at them and see what they were being driven in military trucks, where the driver of the truck was actually still in full military uniform. That's the things, I would say, the hard evidence. Anecdotal evidence, a lot of people said to us that they've seen military entering a certain building, for example, the Yangon City Hall, which they made a base since February 1st. And then in the morning, they would leave wearing police uniform. Some of the amphibious vehicles that were deployed throughout the city, we saw numerous posts on Facebook showing that they were painted overnight from military green into police white, and some of them we capture in our film. You can see it's a brand new paint job. In addition, we have now the information from the defectors that are in India or are in hiding, who are either police or military personnel, and who have testified that this operation was hand in hand. And in situations where the police would refuse orders, such as shooting the crowd, the military had their own orders to either arrest or shoot at their own people to ensure that they carried, the violence that was requested of them. So I fully believe those are not rumors. I believe that those are facts.
When you were filming, I noticed I sort of put myself in your shoe, Rares, and I guess this is the dilemma probably if I were in your place. You know, you have to establish a bond with your subjects, the three people that you were photographing and filming. So you have to gain a certain sort of trust, and then you become sort of like comrades, right? But at the same time, you also have to keep a certain sense of distance so that you can objectively capture. At what point do you say it's more important to help them because they are in trouble and I as a human being need to help them? At what point do you say, okay, I'll let them do whatever they are doing, and my job as a filmmaker, I'm just going to document? How do you navigate these two fine lines?
Well, actually, I got my guidelines from Jeannie and from Nant. So from Jeannie, same as Greg mentioned, being with Jeannie in Bangladesh under very difficult conditions and seeing how much time and effort she puts into actually developing this relationship to the point where we're not making films about characters, we're making films about our friends. So that's something that I always try to do anytime that I'm filming. And the other big influence on me was Nant, who many times would say to me, okay, that's it. Stop asking questions. Let them breathe. Stop filming. You know. So I was always, on the one hand, I'm like, oh, Jeannie wants more footage. Oh, Nant says I should be, you know, more laid back.
More sensitive. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I was looking at both, but to be honest, in my mind, there was not really a difference between the work that we did on the film and the overall, you know, fight against the military regime. Our number one concern was always the security of our friends, the security of the activists that were that had agreed to be on film, and so we did everything in our power to support them. If that meant, for example, one time we had a dinner with Yinye, and it was just really a friendly dinner, and there was no cameras involved, and that was totally fine. We did that multiple times. Other of our protagonists were in hiding pretty much since the protest started, and there was times when they could not make their way back to their friend's house, or their friend's house was not safe, and then there was also the curfew to consider. So you know, Nant and I opened up our apartment and welcomed them, their friends, you know, without really thinking of this is for the film. It was really, we're in this together. So as long as we can provide a safe haven, as long as, you know, we can help them concretely, then that takes priority over everything else.
Now I want to ask you this question. In the beginning of the protests, a lot of the protesters felt, and I saw this optimism on social media when they post, right? They say, it's only going to take 1 month. It's only going to take 4 weeks. We're going to win it, and then they'll be gone in the next month or so. But the time has gone on a lot longer now. Do you still feel optimistic? Do you still feel just the way you did in the beginning to say, we are going to win this fight? How do you feel now?
Honestly, I felt the same way like them. But after March, maybe, I realized this revolution is gonna take a while. And then so I kind of like so instead of daydreaming myself, I only focus on real information and real situation, and I only think about what I can do right now. I will never give up. And also I hope all of my friends are also gonna think the same way like me. And I like, we stay like hoping, but I don't want to say we're gonna win in this next month or 2 months. I don't want to say like that. All we can do is hope and then do the things you can do and never give up. Yes.
Rares, when I watched the film, one of the greatest shot, I don't know who shot it, but one of the greatest shot was Maung Saung Ka standing on top of I think it was a bus or a truck, singing a poem about three fingers, how the three finger is the people's cannon to shoot at the army, how the three finger is the anti-fascist baton that the people will use to beat the fascists up. What were some of what were the shots that were near and dear to your heart, and did they all make it to the film? Were you sad to see some shots that you really like ended up on the cutting floor, so to speak?
So that's also one of my favorite shots. Absolutely. I really love that. And it was, you know, at the end of a 5-hour march through the Yangon, you know, summer heat. And then it was so hot, but everybody was so energized because of the speeches. It was a really great atmosphere. So I love that shot. You know, the shots of Zaw and Drum Revolution, you know, singing at Ledan and allowing me so much access. I mean, we became such good friends with Zaw that after the first few times that we met, when he would see me somewhere in the crowd, he would always ask me, come closer, come here, like shoot from right behind me. So, you know, and Yinye, you know, doing her thing at Ledan, speaking to the crowd with so much energy in Tinganyong. Those shots, I love those shots, and those shots made it to the film. For me personally, the shots that I feel the strongest about are the shots from the crackdown, because I just know how difficult it was to get those shots. And it's one of those things where when you're in the action, you know, you feel like you've just filmed 30 seconds of the police charge, but then when you go back and look at it, it's like 3 seconds and then you're running. But yeah, those shots I really like, and you know, most of them have made it to the film. But you know, I saw Jeannie laughing earlier. If this was up to me, this would be like a 4-hour, you know, 4-part film that has everything in it, every interview we shot, every secondary character, you know, every song that we recorded.
Yeah, you would have made a 3-hour epic version of this film,
something like that, but it would not have been a better version. And that's something that I'm really glad for the team that we have at Kirana, and also our editor in Bangkok, Peter from Asia Works. You know, filming is what I love doing. Editing is very painful for me, but at the end we come up with a much better movie. So even though there's a lot of shots that, you know, end up being cut, and people that I was very close to that were not able to put in the film, you know, I'm very happy with the process and the result.
What about you, Jeannie? Were there any shots that you had to sadly cut out because of safety reasons for the people who were involved? Or were there some shots that you personally had to fight for and advocate for to keep in the film? What are some of your favorite shots?
Well, just for a little humorous interlude, Sayak, this is a portion of the interviews that Rares and Nant did with our team. This is just about 1/3 of the pile on my desk. And as happens, it is a process. It is finding that inner story in the midst of information, because information is not going to resonate with people, but stories will resonate with people. And there was an incredible amount of material. And once again, I really salute Nant and Rares and Sajar Kai and our other team members who will be unnamed, who are still in Yangon. And I also want to salute and acknowledge the archival footage that we were able to access from our journalistic colleagues in Myanmar Burmese media, from Democratic Voice of Burma, from Mizima, from Irrawaddy and others. I felt strongly that we had to have some voices from outside of Yangon. And unfortunately, our team, who wanted to go outside of Yangon at the point at which the violence was so dangerous, it was just untenable. And fortunately, we were able to arrange through our contacts and networks to have some people do some interviews for us with youth in Kachin State. And I'm very grateful to them for those that arranged that and at risk did the interviews and at risk sent them to us in compressed files on a VPN system. And that's something that I feel very good about, the inclusion of the young Kachin woman who is speaking from her experience as an ethnic person by way of echoing what Nant is discovering in saying, you know, this has been our reality for so many decades. And we hope that now you can understand just a portion of our reality. And having that young woman from Kachin State speak to me was really vital.
Greg, I think I'm going to ask you this. I think it's fair to say that documentary filmmaking is not exactly a money-making endeavor. You don't go into that. It's not a commercial enterprise. So if it's not money, what it is that make you keep producing documentary films? More than anything, these really harrowing human tragedies and rights violation films.
Well, indeed, it's not about making money. That's for sure. I've long believed that documentary films are the most compelling and most effective way to humanize topics, to personalize stories behind the headlines. That's what Jeannie does, tell stories. And so it's very rewarding for me to be involved with that. And I love the places where technology, art, and human rights meet. For example, the role that cell phones and social media have played these past few months in Burma is profound. You compare that to the previous times of struggle in 1988 and 2007. We now have all these recordings, all these things recording these atrocities. And I believe it's strongly that it's imperative upon us to exploit these in the fight for human rights and social justice. So it's extremely rewarding. I mean, it's very gratifying to complete a project like this. And then part of our story with this film is only now just beginning, because now we screen the film, we have panel discussions around it, and that's what it's all about.
Nan, I think this question has already came up a couple of times, so let's have you talk about it. Let me put up the three main characters who are in many ways your friends again. People want to know what has happened to them. Are they safe now? So maybe you can tell us, because you're in contact with them, without telling where they are or without giving a lot of specific. Can you tell us whether they are safe and what are they doing now? Nant, unmute yourself, please.
I was just talking with Zaw. It's safe, I guess. Now he wants to join the meeting, and then now like I can keep in touch with him like every day. It means I think he's safe and it's okay. But Mang Sang Ka, yesterday, I guess he texted me and say hi, and then I send him some messages, and then he never replies me. And I think he would be okay, because I believe him, he can handle. And Yin Ye, I tested her maybe 2 or 3 days ago, and I have no replies for her for like weeks and months. We don't even talk each other for like months now. I don't know. I'm really worried about my friend Yin Ye, and also I'm really kind of sad because we cannot talk each other. So yeah, I don't know about Yin Ye, but I hope she is okay and safe.
Very good. Thank you very much for this update. Well, we know.
Are we having, I think, a technical difficulty, Greg?
Yeah, I think we may have
Yeah,
lost,
we sure are.
yeah.
I'm texting Kenneth to see if he can reconnect.
Well, I just want to add that I spoke to Yin on June 10th, and so we've been in touch through that date.
Mhm.
But as Nan said, in the past few days, we have not been able to reach out to her, and she's usually very responsive. So yes, there is a certain level of concern
Sure.
about that. So we're hoping that we'll hear back very
Yes.
soon.
Well, I think we should just keep the conversation going. This might be a question actually for you, Raresh, before Kenneth comes back, about what you think about the coverage of Myanmar Burma or the lack of it in international news outlets.
Yeah, that's a really good question. You know, as Nan mentioned, we are living this revolution on a 24/7 basis. People call us in the middle of the night, and same for you and Greg, right? So I feel that when I wake up in the morning, I check on everything that happened the previous day, and I check various social media sources, some of the English language Burmese newspapers that were mentioned. I talk to my friends on the ground, both from the film and from other parts of the country. So this is all I can think about. This is mostly all I talk about, even with my friends here. So it's good to hear this perspective that people feel there's not enough coverage, because it's true. If I was to look at CNN or The Guardian or some of the international newspapers, the coverage has really dwindled. In the beginning, I felt that we're getting a lot of positive coverage. I did an interview with the BBC in early February, and you know, it was sort of the hot news item of the day, and then the news cycle moved on, and I think that's where screening of the films, speaking about it, reaching out to people via social media, this is where all of these things come in. And I think that we shouldn't wait on the big news networks to come and, you know, talk about it. I know there was an attempt by CNN to send a reporter in. It was very divisive. I'm not a big fan of parachute journalism, but even that is better than no coverage at all. So, you know, my appeal for everyone watching this right now would be, of course, I hope you will donate. I hope you will support the civil disobedience movement, which is really the backbone of this revolution. But even short of that, if you can share something with your close friends, or if you're active on social media, understanding that every day people are dying. We don't see the giant protests that we used to see in February, yet people still go out. They do this flash mob protest knowing that people would get arrested, and they still brave the military and the police every day to get the word out. And if we don't amplify their voices, we're letting them down. So at the very least, we can take on the role that traditional media would have taken.
Yeah, Jeannie, you're on mute. I can.
I wanted to actually turn to you, Greg, and ask, what is the message of this film? If there is some kind of core message that you think is being conveyed by the sharing of these remarkable stories and these remarkable characters, including Nant, what would that be?
Well, it's a kind of an awakening, and this is another aspect, I think, to documentary filmmaking is to give hope and look for that, you know, those silver linings or some way to be hopeful, even in a very dire and dark set of circumstances. And the hope that is in this film for me is that one of the big long-running problems in Burma, which is the divisiveness amongst all the myriad ethnic groups. For those that don't know, there's some 130 different ethnic groups in the country. And especially in the days since internet and Facebook were introduced, there's a lot of disinformation and scapegoating of other groups. And what we're seeing now as part of this struggle is a coming together, a unified struggle where people are coming to understand the true nature of the Tatmadaw, the military junta. And we don't know yet if that'll be a lasting circumstance, but at least we're seeing some hope there. And I think that comes through in this film as we see it through Nant's eyes. As she says in the film, she didn't really see issues with the military until this happened. Mm-hmm. And now she's had her eyes open, and I think a lot of people have.
Thanks for that. Nant, camera pwin me, no? Nant, nini pyo me. Are you still there, Nant?
No, I think she's trying to coordinate with Zol, who is trying to join into the Zoom as well.
Oh, so we have an incredible technical engineer, Max Sauerbry. Max, are you able to let somebody else into this Zoom meeting?
I'm looking into it right now.
Zoom,
I will. Yeah, I'll be back in a second.
Okay, so Max is working on that, and I think Nant is behind the scenes working on that. I know that one of Kenneth's questions to all of us was this what we are hoping the message will be from this film, and I would like to just share that, and I think this is a universal concept, that when societies are governed by avarice, by hatred, by divisiveness, by violence, by control, they cannot flourish. Human beings cannot flourish. Any sentient being cannot flourish in that type of environment. And when we can see all the incredible potential and intelligence and creativity that these characters have shared with us, we can see what is possible for our society. And this military junta has shown that when they attempt to shut down media by canceling the broadcast licenses, I think that is a revelation of their ignorance of the power of journalism and media to carry on. When they arrest a mother and beat her for coming to a police station looking for her son who was arrested, that is a sign of chaos and desperation. When they kill children, 7, 8-year-old children, that is going to affect their heart. And when they kill poets, that will affect their soul. So I think if we can see that empathy and compassion is really the path towards transformation, that is a message. And we sincerely hope that this can also reach people who are part of the uniformed personnel to be able to share in that. Nant, do we have Koza with us?
Oh,
Koza, Mingalaba.
Mingalaba, I'm sorry.
Oh, Koza, what a surprise to see you. This is just incredible.
Okay.
Oh, Nant, you're going to have to translate because we lost Saya Kenneth. Koza, Myanmar saga pyole o English lo saga pyomale?
Myanmar lo pyome.
Okay, Nant, you're going to have to translate.
He will speak in Burmese.
Oh,
okay.
We're just getting Saya Kenneth back. Wuntabade shin, ayam wuntabade. Saya Kenneth, nini champe me no? Saya Kenneth apyame. Saya Kenneth apyame. Koza pyabashin.
Okay, wa. Dilo channel nangan the revolution in it. The labido lobby general bagani video. Amyai Jesus de Maria. That general bag can say a chini alo general the Kabalongo, the Queen Yalo solution. So I'm Rama the Lord. Go to Bama Masayu. I'm a Samuel Lobira. And Jesus de Maria.
Nant?
he said he's thanks to us, and then he's super happy, and then he's like he cannot even express how to thanks. He said thank you very much to everyone who make this film and who are participating in this revolution for our country and for our people. He said he cannot even express how to say thank you to you guys because I really appreciate it so much.
Jama ayan Jesu timbade kozapi.
Okay, wow.
Jama Nico Rares, Nico Gregg, ni Nant, Along. Jama peme Jesu timbade koza.
Okay, wow.
Koza aku ba lotelea. Da beme mapyo naimbu bemale. Da beme nene pyaba ba lotele akua. Yangoma kaundala batindelea.
Django, Sembila so. Yango Achenia, the dime. Through our Gomozo Lepa through Judania. I met Genova Garo a young Bama one view.
He said he just okay, and then what did you say?
Oh, the young Maro come on way easy never told you Chetani.
He is trying to live peacefully and then stay participating in this revolution.
Kenneth, this is guerrilla filmmaking, so we're going to bunt here. We've got Kenneth on speaker, so he can hear Za and he can translate for us. Okay, Koza Pyaba.
I saw.
Kanale Shin Yimale. So Kenneth, you can ask Koza, what is the situation like now for the activists and for the CDM in Myanmar, Burma?
Hello.
Okay, Jabba. Okay.
Who teaching load who now so much in about the CDM about one low shiny the Ludia chinny up blue later.
Okay, Wally. CDM Maloshani Luria, two Rudiga, who Shenomio and Dijima, a Choluria, CDM go long and Loma fully fail long and a Choluria drew a 1 year chinny out, the Soya long and it would be and Dora. She. Naruka General Shenomio, Piduria, Juita Mabia, Panya, Suraria, Sabai maybe. Now when you drew a B1 sublime of B9. All right. Okay, I'm going to translate it right now. Okay, Jeannie. When it comes to CDM participant, some people are able to continue to practice civil disobedience movement, but unfortunately, many of the other people, because of the need for their livelihood, they had to go back to their government works. In the beginning, there were a lot of talk about the fact that the people are going to support everybody in CDM, but the reality is that is not really the case. Okay, Jeannie, any follow-up questions?
Yes. What was the situation that led young people like you to feel that you were pushed into making a choice to take up arms to defend yourselves? That was something I'm sure many people are thinking about in this film.
Okay. Kozo Bakelo Kozo Rulu Yungeleria now so Yuchazia Landau Mishia Ujonoru Lenaka Miro Kugama Yarome so the Som Pachako Som Tech Kearale Yoshin Chine Ludi Alon Dario Tijan Mababe.
Okay, ba. Well, Dilo General Balo Sompialeso. Well, General. The 19 Lara, Miala, Yala, General, Deacon. နောက်ပိုင်းကျတော့ရှင်းစမြောက်ရင်ကျွန်တော်တို့အချိန်မှာကျွန်တော်တို့ညီကိုတွေကျွန်တော်တိုင်းရင်းသားတွေပေါ့အဲ့လိုတက်တာတွေကိုကျွန်တော်မြင်ခဲ့ရတယ်ရက်ွက်တွေတောင်းချမ်းတာတွေအိမ်တိန်ကိုအကြောင်းမဲ့ဝင်စီးပြီးတော့ပစ္စည်းတွေလူတာတွေအဲ့လိုမတရားမှုတွေပြုကျင့်မှာများလာတဲ့အချိန်မှာကျွန်တော်ဘက်ကတီးမခံနိုင်တော့တဲ့အဆုံးသူတို့တံပြန်လက်နက်ကင်မှုကျွန်တော်ဆုံးဖြတ်ချက်ချရခြင်းပဲဖြစ်တယ်
Well, right before our eyes, we had witnessed many of our brothers and sisters killed, and there were also a lot of unjustifiable searches and seizures in the neighborhood, simply coming into our homes, violating our freedom. So there are too many of these acts of injustice. So we felt that we had no other choice but to take up arms to defend ourselves. Okay, Jeannie?
Yes. And I'd like to ask Kozal, because we have people watching now and people will see this, what is it you want the international community to do for Myanmar right now? What is the message you want to share about your country?
Okay, Kozal ho nangan da kama di yokshin on chi ni de lu de prichat de agu lolos and not town ni de lu de ho ba mya pyo chin ba de ba taw so chin ba de thro ba lo basic chin ba de
or ကျွန်တော်ပြောချင်တာကတော့ဒီရုပ်ရှင်ကိုကြည့်ရဲကျွန်တော်ဒီပြောမယ်ဆိုရင်တော့နိုင်ငံတကာမှာရှိတဲ့လူတွေကဒီကျွန်တော်တို့တိုင်းပြည်ရဲ့အခက်အခဲကိုအားလုံးမြင်သွားကြပြီလို့ထင်ပါတယ်အဲ့လိုမြင်သွားကြတဲ့အချိန်မှာဒါကြည့်လိုက်ချိန်မှာကျွန်တော်စက်သိန်းနေလက်ထားတယ်ဒါကိုပြန်ကြည့်တဲ့အချိန်မှာဒီကျွန်တော်နှလုံးသားထဲမှာနာကျင်စွာခံစားနေရတာတော့ဒီငါတို့တိုင်းပြည်ကိုဘာကြောင့်သူတို့တွေကရဲရဲဆက်ဆက်လုပ်ခဲ့တာလဲဟိုဓမ္မနဲ့အဓမ္မမှာအဓမ္မဘာဖြစ်လို့အနိုင်ကျင့်နေကြလဲအဲ့တော့အဓမ္မအနိုင်ကျင့်နေရအောင်အားလုံးကလည်းလက်ပိုက်မကြည့်ဖို့ကျွန်တော်တို့မျှော်လင့်ပါတယ်နောက်တစ်ခုကဟိုတက်နိုင်တဲ့ဘက်ကကျွန်တော်တို့နိုင်ငံကိုကူညီပေးကြပါဒီချိန်မှာစစ်မြန်မာဆိုတဲ့စကားကျွန်တော်ရှင်းဆုံးပြောရင်တက္ကမမှာမျက်နှာငယ်စွာနဲ့ပြောချင်ပါတယ်ရှင်းဆုံးဗမာဟိုရင်တော့ခေါင်းမွန်လာခဲ့တဲ့ဗမာနိုင်ငံအခုဆိုရင်ကျွန်တော်တို့အဖက်ဖက်ကယူရင်းလာတဲ့အချိန်ကြီးရောက်လာပြီအဲ့တော့ကျေးဇူးပြုပြီးတော့ဒီရရနီးလေးနဲ့ကျွန်တော်ဗမာနိုင်ငံကိုဒီကူညီပေးကြပါနောက်တစ်ခု human right လူသားချင်းစာနာထောက်ထားတဲ့အနေနဲ့ကျွန်တော်နိုင်ငံမှာရှိတဲ့ပြည်သူတွေခံစားနေရတဲ့ဒုက္ခတွေကိုအားလုံးဒီဝေးမျှပေးကြပါအားလုံးခံစားပေးကြပါတနည်းနည်းနဲ့ကျွန်တော်တို့နိုင်ငံတကာရဲ့အကူအညီကိုတစ်ချိန်ချိန်ကြရင်ကျွန်တော်တို့ရမယ်လို့တော့ကျွန်တော်တို့ဘက်ကမျှော်လင့်ပါတယ်ဒါလည်းအဆုံးစုံမဟုတ်ပါဘူးဘာဖြစ်လို့လဲဆိုတော့ကျွန်တော်တို့ဘယ်သူမှအာမကိုကျွန်တော်တို့ပြည်သူတွေကတော်လှန်ရေးဆိုတာတိုက်မှရမယ်ဆိုတာနားလဲပါတယ်ဘယ်လိုပဲဖြစ်ဖြစ်အထောက်ပံ့နေကျွန်တော်တိုင်းပြည်ကိုအားလုံးကဆောင်ရွက်ပေးကြလို့ရှိလို့ရှင်ကျွန်တော်တို့ပြည်သူပြည်သားတွေရောအားလုံးဝမ်းသာနေလိမ့်မယ်လို့ကျွန်တော်မျှော်လင့်ပါတယ်
When I was watching this film, I even got goosebumps because I was recalling many of the things that have already happened to us. This is a fight between light and darkness, a fight between the just forces and the unjust forces. So you know which side you should stand with. And it is really difficult for me to beg and ask for assistance, but it seems like we're in a position where we have no choice but to ask for assistance. So I'm asking you to do anything you can do to spread the words about what's happening in the country. And I understand that this is a revolution. So as the nature of the revolution, we will have to fight the battle ourselves. We cannot depend on other people. But I also believe the international community will do everything they can to support us and protect human rights in our country. Jeannie?
The situation is getting quite worrisome with many new refugees, attacks in the ethnic areas. Do you have hope? Where do you find that source of hope? And where do you find that inner strength?
တိုင်းရင်းသားတွေရှိတဲ့နေရာမှာဆိုလို့ရှိရင်တော့ပုံစံအမျိုးမျိုးအချမ်းဖက်ခံနေရတယ်အတိုက်ခိုက်ခံနေရတယ်ဒီလိုဟာတွေကိုမြင်တွေ့နေရတဲ့ဂျားထဲမှာအောင်မြင်နိုင်သေးတယ်ဆိုတော့ညှော်လင့်ချက်ကရှိပါသေးရဲ့လားရှိတယ်ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ဒီညှော်လင့်ချက်ကိုဘယ်နေရာမှာဘယ်လိုရှာဖွေပြီးတော့တွေ့နိုင်ပါလဲခင်ဗျာ
ကျွန်တော်ဘယ်လိုပြောကျွန်တော်တိုင်းသားတွေကိုခံစားနေရကျွန်တော်ကိုယ်တိုင်တွေ့ခဲ့တယ်ဗျကျွန်တော်ကိုယ်တိုင်သူတို့တော်ရဲမှာသူပုံခိုးပြီးတော့ခိုးဆောင်ခိုးဝက်လေးစားတောင်းနေရဟုတ်ကဲ့မျိုးနဲ့တိတိလေးတွေကိုလက်နဲ့ကြီးနဲ့ထုနေရတိုင်းသားတွေကိုအချမ်းဖက်နှိမ့်ဆက်နေရတယ်ကျွန်တော်မြင်ခဲ့ရတယ်အဲ့လိုမြင်ခဲ့ရတယ်ခုနပြောလို့ဒီကျွန်တော်ဘက်ကမျောလင်းချက်ကတော့ခုကျွန်တော်မှအပြစ်တက်လာရက်ခဲ့ရတယ် Kayama. Babylon, the Diana Doga, the Ayamiana, General Kuni Kazay, Harry, Mishure, Chassi, Lu Pane, Maya, and Tade. I don't need some other General Doga, the Ayan Ubi Miana. I Doga the Ubi, General, the Sada Pu Kakela. I look Kakela as him, General Timey, the General, the Luria, Loma, the red tighted PDA for you, the light P. Yanagay. This is my General, my Mulenjo, Blue Sharp Wilezo, General Tanazo, the common General Pian Time. I looked at I would general type boycott down general sounding, I sounded a general balloony in it, below some page a chat with time is around general. Chinomia, ya, London, I'm your ninja layer, the alone to do the zero touch on etching. I don't sound now.
Well, I have personally witnessed many of the assaults that took place in the ethnic regions. The reality is that there are many small towns and villages that are under heavy assault with battle-grade weapons, particularly in the Kayah state, because the battles have become so intense that we had to stop the battle in order to take care of the refugees, simply because we have to prioritize the needs of the refugees and their safety. How and where do I find the hope to continue fighting? We believe that at some point we will be able to take up whatever arms that is available to us, and we will continue fighting. So we are waiting for the battle cry. We are waiting for the command. We are waiting for the rallying cry.
Nant, are you still with us? Nant?
Yes, I am here.
It must be quite emotional for you to see Koza this way, and I can feel that. Is there anything you would like to say as the final closing remark to us, to Koza, to the people watching? If you want to speak in Burmese, you can. Myanmar Sagat Pya Yamale. Manat. Majabua.
Mute.
Audio Pwimi. Okay.
I will be speaking in English and as well as Burmese. I wish everyone is doing okay, and then I would like to thank Mang Sangka, So, and Yin for sharing experience and knowledge and teaching political ideas with me without hesitation, and also special thanks to our protection team for giving me a chance, amazing opportunities to be a part of this film. And I'm so honored, like, meeting with you all. And then I wish everyone safe and strong, and let's do not give up. The revolution must succeed. Ayirabong army, akolong simbi jamelule, nyole mare, akulumyo, Papa Ganibio. Kuni di family pilang kuni we luri along le jisu temare aku sangti ne luri along ne male di dolan yi ma dada apa win ne ja de luri pa win me so ra le yong ji pare jima ro twei lo le phit ba wu jima ro nana pi ro le tai ja me tyaw ne tyaw phin ma pi ro le bahutara ri share ja me jima ro le achin chin le si long ja me ayi ro pon wa le aung ba ro me jisu temare. Thank you so much for everyone.
Well, quite an incredible experience to have Koza joining us. This was not expected. Rares, is there any final thing you would like to share before we close out?
Let's all keep fighting. This is not gonna end anytime soon, but we will all keep fighting, and I truly believe in the power of the people. Ayerabon, Ayami.
Ayami, Ayami.
Kenneth, if you can tell Koza to not hang up after we turn off our cameras so that there's an opportunity to speak with him.
All right. Koza who Janaru the Aguzagapio boy who yapi dware kajala who camera Canali by big man, not the line or same Gabane, general web Bidobis out, Jania Bidolis, Sepiscap Georgia Lava. Hope you know?
Okay, okay.
I'm going to close this out. This is our final panel of the Burma Spring Benefit Film Festival. It has been a truly amazing experience for each and every one of us that has been part of this film team. And we would like to thank everyone that has volunteered to bring you these films, these panel discussions, to enlighten, to inform, to move your heart, to open your heart. And if your heart has been opened, we truly hope that perhaps your purse or your wallet can also open. If you have already donated, we thank you. If there's anybody that you know who might be interested, we are still open through Sunday. Please tell your friends, your family, your coworkers. On behalf of the Padauk team, I would like to give our heartfelt thanks to our editor, Peter Potts at Asia Works Television. I would also like to give our thanks to our donors, one of whom is not named and two of whom are hopefully with us this evening. Maureen Ongtwin, the Louis Carr Memorial Foundation, Bill Harrison. We would like to thank you for your belief in this project. And for our colleagues in Burma, if you are watching, we think of you all the time. We hope you are staying safe. We worry about you, but we hope you are staying safe, and we will see you. We will see you again, and we will make a film again together in person. Nant, you have taught me about transformation. You have taught me about the hope of redemption. And for that, we thank you so much. Rares, you did an incredible job, incredible courage. We'd like to thank our technical support person, Max Saubry, who has been a volunteer throughout this entire festival. We'd like to thank Sarah Parker, our volunteer, who's done all of the social media. I'd like to name and thank everyone on the Burma Spring Benefit Film Festival team, Gaetano Maeda, Ellen Bruno, Alan Sunake, Kenneth Wong, Gregg Butensky. We thank you. We hope that this has opened some concepts and planted some seeds, and may they flourish. May you stay safe, Kozal, and may everyone stay safe, and may everyone know peace. This is the final panel from the Burma Spring Benefit Film Festival. Alon, Jizu Timbade. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.